I'll let y'all in.
I'll tell you, when that beat drops, it's hard not to just do a little something with
Yep.
it. You know,
Especially when it's in you.
it's still in you.
It's just in you.
Man, yeah.
My dad loves soul music too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's some of your favorite artists?
Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You just got me. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Nicole C. Mullen.
Well, she's not R&B, but
Oh,
Nicole C. Mullen, she's Christian music.
Christian art. You told me you can't be Christian R&B.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're gonna play her in the club, but
That's true. That's true. I mean, John Legend.
Well,
I'm like, where do you want to go with this, Michael?
Well, I'm just saying.
I like the Katinas.
Well, they did.
Nicole C. Mullen.
Well, they did play some gospel in the club before,
Yes,
you know. So.
Yes.
Yolanda Adams had the biggest.
Yolanda.
Yeah.
But I was like, where are we going with who's my favorite artist?
Okay.
But she's my favorite.
Nicole or
Nicole C. Mullen.
She's
And
your
I've met
favorite?
her and I love her. She's so real. Yeah.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. Where'd you meet her at?
In the airport.
What?
Yeah.
Y'all get pictures and everything?
We did. She signed something for me.
What?
Yeah.
All
I did the
right.
fangirl.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, hey, y'all, listen up. This your boy, Pastor Mike, and welcome to the 11th Hour Podcast. I'm also known as 90s number 5 because I'm the youngest of 5, and, so and they call my mom 90.
Oh.
So I have no idea. She told me the story why they called her that. But so we on here and we're talking about youth, family, and community. And I have a great guest that's on the show with us today, as y'all already see. She's into the hip hop and the music. She got her rundown. So we just gonna always talk about being in our 11th hour, about doing things, when we're in crunch time and making sure that we're going in the right direction. So today I have somebody who's a special guest who deals not only in that, but she deals with athletics. So she's got a lot of things going on there. So I'm gonna just let her introduce herself, what she does, and then we're gonna go from there.
Okay. My name's Christa Lanier. I like to say I speak Southern.
Okay.
So help me if I need to mellow the twang a little bit. Christa Lanier worked for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, also known as FCA.
FCA.
We are right here out of Murfreesboro. We cover Rutherford, Cannon, and Bedford counties.
Okay.
I work with middle schoolers, high schoolers, and then the college.
Wow.
MTSU.
Wow. You sound like you stay pretty busy then.
Oh my. Yes.
Yeah.
Super busy.
And I'm so glad you was able to have time to come out and just hang out with us today. That's a privilege, right?
My pleasure.
Man, I'm glad to have you.
Absolutely.
So FCA, tell us exactly how that started, and you have the whole backstory on that. Tell us the beginning and kind of where that
FCA.
goes. Yes.
Absolutely. So FCA started in 1954, predominantly as a camp ministry. So it's where.
Okay, well, hold on. Now,
Okay.
what's a camp ministry?
Okay. Don McClannon started this.
Okay.
He saw that athletes could be people of influence. So if they could influence cigarettes and alcohol, that they could also influence others for Jesus.
Great point.
So from that started camps. So summer camps, leadership camps, basketball, football camps, baseball camps. I mean, taking kids out of their normal routine, taking them away with their peers and saying, let's be about something more. Let's be about leadership and Jesus. Let's be about something different. So it started as a camp ministry. And then we have developed there from camps to go into communities, coaches, and then obviously students and athletes.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now how long you been with them?
8 years.
8?
8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
Man, that's long.
Yes.
It's a long good time.
It flies when
long
you're
good
having
time
fun.
though.
Yeah.
Did you start out in your position or did you kind of work your way up?
I did not. Actually, I've only been in this position since September 1st.
Oh, so you newbie
Brand
then.
new.
Man,
Yes.
brand new.
Yeah,
okay.
and I didn't mean to do this either.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard that before, but when you're in ministry and you say yes to God, get ready.
Exactly.
You just never know.
You never know.
So 8 years, actually 8.5 years ago, our youngest daughter was 18 months old. So we put her in Mother's Day Out, which is a 2-day-a-week program. We have 3 girls. She was our youngest. And so that freed up a little bit of time. And I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to do with this time? What do? I actually have moments alone. I don't want to just be at home. I'm a people person.
Right.
What can I do with this? And so I reached out to Brian and Angela Harrell, who were in charge of FCA here in this area, and said, how can I give back to this ministry that has given so much, mainly to my husband, but also to our family?
Right.
And so that led to me starting to volunteer, which led quickly to, hey, you should come on staff. And I'm like, No, that's not what I meant to
Right,
do.
right,
I just
right.
want to volunteer. I just want
Yeah.
to give back. I mean, I was like, can I clean your office? Can I run errands? You know,
Yeah.
and they were like, no, you like people too much to do that.
Yeah, because you got a great personality
Oh,
now.
thanks.
And shout out to Mr. Brian Harrell.
Oh, love him.
He's a great guy.
Love him. One of my mentors.
Man,
Yep.
I love that guy. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. And his wife too.
Yeah.
Angela, she's the rock of our office, still is.
Yeah.
And she was pouring into me as a coach's wife.
Cool.
Because FCA really focuses on coaches and their families. And
right.
so they were doing it at all angles, focusing on pouring into my husband as a coach at Riverdale. That's when he was in basketball at Riverdale. And then me as the coach's wife. So,
man,
yeah, that's what started it.
You know what? A lot of people don't really see that part of the sports, because I know as a basketball wife, it's almost kind of like being a preacher's wife.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Even when you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Again, you brought your infant,
right.
you know,
right.
your toddler, your infant, and then an older kid, and you're trying to chase them all around. And then you hear things about your husband in the stands.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't care about playing time. I'm just trying to support my husband.
Right,
here,
right,
you know?
right.
But yeah, it is a lot like being preachers.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that. Like I said, you know, we now let y'all know we do have some preset questions, but you know, we gonna veer off this
because you off script,
man. Because you just made a great point that I want people to hear. Like, how do you handle that? Like, when you hear like, you're the worst coach ever, get your beep beep beep. Like, I mean, how do you handle that, knowing that's your husband sitting there, and you knowing the hours that he's putting in, and how hard? How do you handle that?
Well, first I cover my kids' ears.
Right.
No, not really. I really don't hear a lot of language. Thank the Lord. But you know, also I clean their uniforms, so I may have been folding the boys' uniforms the night before,
right?
And so that he can take them to the gym the next morning, and then I'm serving their kids that the parents have a lot to say about my husband.
Right.
Thankfully, it's not ever been super directed towards my husband. He's been an assistant coach for several years.
Okay.
So I think we kind of get to fly under the radar a little bit and befriend more of the families and the players. But at the same time, you have to keep that healthy balance, that healthy level of separation, because we are still the coach's staff. You know,
exactly.
we're part of that staff. So I really try to do what Jesus would do. I mean, as cliche as that sounds, I'm like, girls, we're going to pray for Mr. Such and Such and Mr. So and so. We're going to pray for them, because you can't unhear some things. I mean, literally in the bathroom, in the line at the concession stand.
Yeah.
I mean, when
in
you
the parking lot,
right? When you live at the gym, you're going to hear some things.
Okay, okay. So I know, I don't understand what would Jesus do. I really understand.
You're like, give me a different answer.
Yeah, because I'm like, Jesus turned some tables over, and
righteous anger.
Yeah, man. Yep. So I mean, you got to tell me that it hadn't been some times when you just wanted to just go, Ali on somebody.
Yep. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I know there's been. I know there's been some times.
I was thinking about. So my husband has assisted on varsity, but he's been the head JV for many, many years. So, so it's his squad. Right. So there have been, I can think of 2 times, maybe one where he's currently coaching and one where he coached previously.
Okay.
Where I let the family in front of me know that was my husband. Because sometimes I'm like, do you realize that he's real too, and his family is here too?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just say, hey girls, isn't Daddy doing such a good job?
Come on now, Christa. Come on now. We got to pull it out of you
because
now.
I want that family to know, we all heard you.
Yeah,
we heard what you're saying. But I really don't engage. I try to sit.
Well, that's good.
I try to sit opposite then, like the student section, parent section, and my girls, now that they are students where my husband coaches. And so now they're like, Mom, let's go sit over here. And I'm like, nope. I'm going to stay over where I know I need to be. Right. So, and especially working for FCA for 8 years, I really believe, I mean, I'm not trying to just give the cliche answer. I believe it's supposed to look different. We're supposed to be different. And so hurt people.
Right.
And so I will say to my kids or my parents, they go to lots of games as well. I will just say, well, obviously they're struggling. I mean, instead of like turning around and wanting to get somebody, I will just say, they're obviously struggling.
Now, when you get that, what kind of reaction do you get from people when you make those statements in the stands? Like
that's my husband that you're talking about.
Yeah. Or, isn't Daddy doing a great job? I mean, what people do? They go,
that like, will quiet them.
Get them quiet.
Yeah.
And I know he appreciates that. And, and I know it's got to be hard on him too, because I know you guys are going through up there in the stands. I mean, I've always just wondered that, like, because they never talk to the wives that much. They always just talk to them, because I know because I have to do that even as a fan, like, because when my daughter's playing, and there's somebody on their team that's not doing well, you may say something and my wife be like, hey, that's their parents sitting right there, and I'm like, ooh,
whoops. Yes.
Like, I didn't know, I'm sorry.
Well, and Kyler is the calm, patient, cool, collected one,
and he is,
and I'm the fiery one. So it's really because of Jesus that I hold. My high school girlfriends may have said, okay, Christa, that's not what you do. But, because of Jesus, it is what I do. But I definitely want people to know we're his family and we heard you.
Yeah. And you heard too, like, because, I mean, you're taking the losses, both, And so, man, that's great. You doing uniforms too, man.
Oh, yeah. Water bottles, uniforms. It's a full service thing.
Yeah,
we're a package deal. We do it all.
You know what? Actually, that should be another show because I got like a ton of questions I want to ask. I may should bring you and your husband in.
Yes,
and have this conversation.
It'd be hilarious. And the kids even.
Man, I would. Yeah, that should be something we should do because I have a lot of questions about that. Because I'm gonna make this one point, then we're gonna get back to this. Okay, you ever seen the show Last Chance U? You ever heard of it?
I've heard of it.
So on that show, there's this coach, the coaching staff. They follow the coaching staff on there, and then there's this one guy that was on there. He wasn't even getting paid.
Right.
Like he wasn't getting paid.
Coaches really don't get paid.
He wasn't getting paid like for
truly.
real.
Okay.
Like no, truly wasn't. But they were living in the dorms and I'm thinking, and his family was there. I think he had like 3 little girls, and his wife was just really being very supportive. But she also talked about the struggle. And so when you say what you say, it's just like, man, those are stories behind stories. Like people don't know.
Bench.
Yeah.
That's what we said, the stories behind the bench.
That's a book.
Yeah. I think it actually is a book. But
Behind the Bench. Hey, that's a good one. I'm like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Or In the Stands or something like that. That's kind of cool. Okay, so you already told us how you got into this. Is there anything you wish you knew before you kind of took this? Let's start with this position first. Is there anything you wish you knew before you got into this position?
So when I started a little over 8 years ago, I was an area representative, which is just essentially the hands and feet of Jesus, boots on the ground, whatever that looks like. Middle school, high school. I have always focused on the student leadership piece. I mean, from teaching kids how to look at people in the eyes, have a firm handshake, to sharing their testimony, sharing their God story with their peers.
Okay.
So that's what I was so passionate about and still am for so many years. And then my boss, Brian Harrell, was given an opportunity to lead over 13 offices now. And so someone in our staff or in the community needed to step into the role that he had, which was the area director role.
Right.
And the really neat thing, which this is how God works, but Brian took a sabbatical, which I believe in and love. And he took that and he asked me to step in as the interim area director while he was on sabbatical.
He knew
and the Lord knew. But I will tell you what, when he said, maybe this is something for the future, I was like, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, no, sir. But again, God knew. And so about a year after that, here we are. And I'm the area director and have a staff and have hired. The first thing I did was hire an ambassador for Bedford County and Jason Scales for MTSU.
Yeah. Shout out to him.
I knew what we needed, and I knew what I was passionate about. I knew we needed to grow our staff, that there were some gaps, and I knew that's what the community needed. So I was so excited to get to do that.
Were you afraid at any time? Like, what was your fear?
I'm still afraid.
Well, I'm like,
man, daily. I feel like when you wake up and say, Lord, lead me. What do you have for me today? Sometimes it's really scary.
Right.
Whether it's asking a donor for money because our ministry runs off donors. I mean, we need those funds, whether it's something as simple as asking for some funds or leading someone to Jesus that didn't look like they ever wanted to talk to you in the first place. Right. I mean, we live in a really dark world and a dark time. And so I say every opportunity that when you step outside your door at home is an opportunity to share Jesus.
Yeah, especially in the sports world, because that world in itself is just
dark.
Yeah. It's
competitive.
Just a different place. Like everything is just, everything is competitive. And then like with those that are super competitive, I'm sure there's some other things too that go along with all of that.
Well, and they don't all know Jesus.
Right.
So
exactly.
We're on different playing fields sometimes.
And plus in their backgrounds too.
Yep.
It's not always lined up with Jesus or lined up with the gospel of the church.
Their home life.
Yeah.
Their background. I mean, That is one thing I've learned being a coach's wife that I have brought into the ministry of FCA is you never know what people are dealing with.
Right.
And that's a good life lesson for my daughters too. I mean, you never know what people are dealing with around you. So don't assume. Don't assume they know Jesus. Don't assume they have clean clothes for tomorrow. Don't assume they have food even. I mean, we are called to be the hands and feet, whatever that looks like. And so sometimes it's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
That's what I know. That's what I know about this position as the director and the position that I was in before, because I believe as believers, we are all called to be missionaries.
Exactly.
So you never know what that's going to look like.
And I like the fact too that you are able to give your kids exposure to some different things, and hopefully and prayerfully that will help them in their journeys too. Because do they go to a lot of things that you guys do?
Oh yes, they go, they serve, they speak.
Really?
I mean, yes. My freshman will now, she's going to lead where she goes to high school here.
Really?
She's going to lead next year, help lead the huddle.
Congratulations.
But she's gone to camp, I mean, since she was in 6th grade, because they started middle school. She went to camp as a coach's kid even before. But I believe that they have seen the impact of their story, of their God story. And so they're not scared to share it.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Does that make it easier to raise them at home?
No, because what are we? What are we all? Sinners saved by grace. I mean,
you're right.
And so they're little turkeys at home, and I'm like, that's not how you act at school.
I know it. I wish you would live some that you preaching about up there. It made my life.
Truth moment. I'm sure they're thinking the same thing about mom and dad, right?
Yeah, most definitely they
we're
are.
Both out loud for Jesus.
Yeah.
But I mean, also keep it straight at home.
Yeah, when I'm at home, I ain't passing the mic at the house now.
Especially when you don't clean your room or put your laundry away. Let's do our homework.
Do you have that problem too?
Yes.
Man, I'm saying says what I'm saying. We could talk all day.
Yeah.
Man, I might need to get some advice from you before we leave here. Okay. What is it that you love about being at the FCA? What is it that you just absolutely love, for being there in that place?
Yeah. I said, when you asked that question, immediately I thought our team.
Okay.
So we try to build a culture of family. FCA worldwide focuses on that, but especially here locally. That's something that was important to Brian and equally as important to me. So we truly are a family. I mean, we're in the trenches together if they're sick, if a kid is in the hospital. I mean, we're a staff of 8 now, and all of us are equally important no matter our role. And we are a family. I mean, they have seen me cry and laugh in one staff meeting.
Wow.
Just as much as pray and do business, talk about plans. I mean, we're a family.
So just in case people don't know, you might have to break this down. Yeah. So how does FCA work? So like, do a student just show up at FCA, or do y'all invite kids? Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? How does it work on each level?
Absolutely. So it's incredibly different everywhere you go. So depending on a K-8 school in Cannon County, all the way to a huge high school in Rutherford County, to what we cover in Cannon County. I mean, every school looks so different that it's really up to the huddle coach, which is the faculty sponsor of the FCA club. They kind of set with their student leadership group. There's a group of student leaders at every school, and they kind of set what should it look like at our school.
Okay.
And I come along and train and lead and give them the tools they need. They need Bibles, they need leadership packets, and they need to be taught how to do it. So that's what I've been doing for 8 years, but it looks different at every school. So there are schools like at Riverdale that this recently has ended. I think COVID kind of ended it, but they were meeting, their huddle was every single morning that the school doors were open.
Wow.
Every single morning in the gym. Coach Field, give him a shout out. He's our longest standing huddle coach in the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
He is in it, and he is passionate.
So how many years we talking here?
30, I believe.
Wow.
38.
38.
And it's because he says it's the stories, which I answered one of the questions that when you see life change and these kids consistently being different because of Jesus, you're like, well, I'll sign up to do that again.
Wow.
Like I'm in for that again.
So I wonder, was he there when I was there?
Yes. I mean, the answer is yes.
And he was doing FCA then?
FCA with track and field.
Look, I wasn't a part of that back then.
Okay, preach. Well, but you would be now.
Yeah, so I would be now. Most definitely.
But middle schools look a little different. I mean, most schools meet once a week in the morning, once a week.
Okay.
This is called the multi-sport huddle, which is just the traditional school-wide huddle. And then we have the character coach program. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I've heard about it.
It's kind of like the teen chaplain of old days,
right.
that we would call the chaplain. And they come alongside the team. They adopt them. They come to practices. They go to games. They are their person for the team, so that the coach has another adult that they can trust to help build up that team. They do leadership things that definitely we're going to talk about Jesus, which is the beauty of it. We get to talk about where do leadership things come from? Where does integrity come from? Where does honesty from the Bible? I mean, teamwork is all through the Bible,
Most definitely.
So we have the character coach program, we have the school-wide huddle, and then we have our coaches ministry. I mean, we have coaches Bible studies going on weekly across the counties, all 3 counties.
Now, is that something relatively new, or have y'all been doing it for the whole length of time too?
Well, Brian, this is really what started. Brian, my boss then and now, Brian Harrell, was doing the coaches Bible study for my husband. That's what started all of this, that he was in a coaches Bible study. So as far as I know, as long as Brian has been with FCA, which is 15 years, they've done coaches ministry, and they've done it well. They do coaches weekends we do now as an area. Coaches and their spouses can get away. And
that's cool.
And I mean, really connect. I mean, again, this is what started it for me.
Right.
I saw the way they loved not only my husband, but also me. And they valued what it looks like for a coach's family. And we need time away. We need to reconnect. And we definitely need to go deeper with Jesus.
Most definitely. Because you're going to need him during the season. You're going to need him.
In and out of the season. Yes. Yes. So, I mean, I can think of one time specifically, Kyler had just gotten fired or asked not to return. However, they're supposed to say that. And he was the head coach, and for whatever reason, that's what happened. And we were scheduled to go to an FCA coaches weekend the next weekend. And of course, and I was pregnant with our third, and extremely hormonal, and did not want to go to an FCA coaches weekend. Right. It was paid for. It was arranged. We had childcare for the other 2. And I'm like, this is not what I want to do with my weekend, especially with how I'm feeling right now.
Right.
But that God did want us there. And so we went to the coaches weekend, and the ministry that took place, again, without me even knowing what I was walking into. I mean, it was from the Lord. It was supernatural. I mean, it was from the Holy Spirit. And it really showed me right then, being pregnant with no insurance because my husband was losing his job, who had the insurance, the breadwinner.
Right.
I knew we were going to be okay. I didn't know how we were going to be okay or what the plan was going to be, but I knew we were going to be okay.
It was all going to work out.
And it did. I mean, he was working about an hour away from where we were living. And so that meant within about 3 months, he got hired back in Rutherford County, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, you talked about huddle coaches.
Yeah.
Can you explain the huddle coach a little bit? What's their role, kind of what they do at the school?
Yes. So a huddle coach is simply someone that works at the school, a faculty that has said, I'll be in charge of this club. Okay. There's all kinds of clubs.
Right.
And so they have said, I'll be there to turn on the lights, to open the door. A lot of them meet in like the cafeteria or the auditorium or the gym. I mean, depending on how big the huddle, but we'll be there consistently for the place to be open, the lights to be on. That's the minimal. That's where it starts. And then more than that, we believe it's really good that they're the consistent person for the student leaders. So there's a student leadership group that takes care of the huddle. I mean, they're the ones that do the talk or would align the speakers, get the speakers to come, youth ministers or pastors or you, I mean, me, staff or whoever, and then help with food and things like that. But really the huddle coach is more of like a faculty mentor for the FCA
I got
group.
you. Okay, cool. So tell us, how has being a part of FCA, how has it really changed your life?
Oh goodness.
I know we've kind of made some funnies with some different things, but really truly, how has it really changed and impacted your life?
Yeah. Well, my dad's an evangelist, so I have grown up around.
Okay, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like, okay, your dad is a evangelist. Yeah.
Have you met my dad? Do you know Marty? He goes to church with us
sometimes. Oh, does it?
Woo!
No, I haven't met him.
You could do like 5 podcasts with my dad.
Okay, all
man. Right. Dad is something else. He's an evangelist, so I grew up with what it looked like for Jesus to be the leader of your days. Okay. The work day, the home day, the travel day. I mean,
right.
And then, life happened. I went off to high school, then college, married Kyler, stayed home with our kids when they were young, really had no idea that God would call me to full-time ministry. I mean, I actually had a conversation with the Lord before I went into PR. PR is what my degree is in from MTSU.
Okay.
And I said, I'll do anything, Lord, as long as I'm not asking people for money for your sake.
Wow.
So I want to give things away. I want to be a giver. I want to share about Jesus, but don't ask me to ask people for money for your sake.
Right.
What do you think I do 50% of my time?
Do exactly what you asked not to do.
Yes. I mean, and I do know that the Lord has a sense of humor, but it's also, it has helped shape who I am to know that it's not about me.
Right.
When I'm asking people to help fund this ministry, they're not given to me. They're they're given to the work of the kingdom.
And I'm glad you said that, because I know when I got into ministry and doing the things that we do at the Nicholas Foundation, that's the thing that is always hard, just asking people for money. But you always have to remember, it's not for you.
It's
like
not.
The money's not for me, and it's not for me to go and live a lavish lifestyle, but it's really to do the work of the Lord. And so you mentioned that, you said, Lord, I don't want to do this. I have this prayer, say, Lord, I don't want millions of dollars. I don't want it, because I don't want to have to give it away.
And that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, he ain't got me the millions.
No,
yet,
you don't have that starting point.
No, maybe I'm still needing to grow a little bit.
So, I mean, I'd say FCA has changed my life in kind of letting me carry on the legacy that I was raised with.
That's
where
great.
Every day is about Jesus.
That's great.
And we're getting to do that for our girls. They see that too. They're like, Mom, where are you going today? What are you doing today? I mean, every day is different.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think it's exciting that I don't know. I mean, I have a planner I should show you. It's kind of crazy. I've kept it since middle school, a planner since I was in middle school.
Wow.
So I have plans. And actually, that's a habit that I think is really important for successful people. However, you got to leave room. You got to leave a margin for the Holy Spirit. I mean, if he's telling me to pray with someone and I have a meeting, I'm going to text the meeting and I'm going to pray with the person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So FCA it makes it exciting. It's fun.
Now, and that's great. And to see that in your life, it's kind of like you already kind of had that in the beginning, that foundation is there, and you're just building on top of what he's already kind of placed in you already. But one thing I want to go back to real quick, I don't know if I let you address it or not, but the students that are in the schools, okay, how do y'all get them to come to the FCA?
Okay. So that's where I had said it's different at every school.
Right.
Again, it's really through, I can't stress this enough, because it's incredible. It's really through the student leadership team.
Okay.
So I do a training it's been at MTSU historically in the fall, and I lead the student leaders. So I spend the whole day. I spend the morning with the middle school leaders and the afternoon with the high school leaders. We eat lunch together, so they get to mingle. And we go deep. I mean, what does it look like to have a meeting? What does it look like to share your testimony? Like, how do you share? And then I do a workshop on sharing your testimony. Wow, what does it look like to do icebreakers? I mean, it's things that I know are FCA specific, but more than that, it's for life. I mean, this is going to help them as they do job interviews. This is going to help them be better workers. I mean, we talk about timeliness, consistency, being dependable. I mean, if you're part of a student leadership team at any of these schools, it's a big job. It's a high calling. It's a big role.
Right.
And so then it's their job to promote the FCA huddle to their peers, to the school. They put it on announcements. They make posters. I mean, we've done like locker ministry where they'll do a prayer or a scripture with a dum-dum or a smarty. I mean, depending on the joke, you know.
I'm like, dum-dum? Like, you calling me dumb? Oh, then I'm like, oh,
don't be a dum-dum. Come to FCA. I mean, And what I have seen is with the intentionality of the student leadership training, the huddles have gotten better.
Okay.
So it's like the best, so goes the student leadership piece, goes the huddle. You know what I mean?
Right.
So as good and strong and consistent as they are, then the huddle is going to be the same way. And the huddle is the students that come.
Now, so do you solicit those athletes to be the leaders?
The huddle coaches do. So the
huddle
coaches
faculty
do.
Okay,
that
I
work
got
at the
you.
School,
Okay.
And they do that again. It's different at every school. Some of them have students apply to do it. Some of them they talk to their Christian peers at the school and say, hey, who do you see that knows the Lord, that has some good leadership skills, and would say yes.
Right.
And then they would approach the students. So schools do it different, especially
middle
middle school versus high school. They all do it different.
Yeah, I'm imagining middle school, like they're already just trying to figure out life anyway.
Yep.
So I'm gonna throw this out there for you real
Okay.
quick. The NIL. Have you noticed a difference with the athletes with the NIL with the FCA? Has the athletes been different with that?
No,
No. Okay. Well, cool.
hadn't. I
Okay.
mean, I'm thinking, and that's newer. No, we hadn't.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So
Yeah.
tell me, what's the struggles of FCA? I know there's got to be a couple of struggles there.
Yeah. Well, so struggles FCA would be different than struggles Christa, right?
Right.
Struggles
That's
with FCA.
another podcast.
Yeah. Something I struggle with, in FCA,
Right,
which
right.
I answered a question is, I have a lot of empathy. I think it's from the Lord, but also it's hard to take off some of the things that I have learned over the day or prayed with someone throughout the day. When I'm in the trenches with them, sometimes that gets carried home with me. And my girls are like, what's wrong with mom? And really, it's just that I'm battling. We're in spiritual battle with whoever I've been with that day, counseled that day,
yes,
mentored that day.
Right.
So that's something that's hard. Doing a little separation can be hard. And
Right.
I saw that in my dad's life too, as an evangelist. But FCA struggles. The laborers are few. It's hard to stress the importance of doing the work, being the boots on the ground.
Right.
When you are also saying, hey, and we need you to raise the funds. We need you to raise your salary.
Yeah.
We need you to raise the money for every Bible we give away, every camp scholarship we give away. It's all raised locally. We don't get something from like a national home office. We have an amazing home office in Kansas City, but FCA is structured in such a way that the local community supports the local ministry. I mean, we are missionaries right here, local missionaries.
Local missionaries, right.
So that's a struggle. It's not one that we haven't seen God show up in amazingly. I mean, the fact that we have 8 on our staff is just truly from the Lord. That's where we've seen him show up. So people are still saying yes to be missionaries.
That's good.
And they're saying yes to get to share Jesus every day. But it's just maybe slower than I would like.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, I mean, you're still early. I mean, you just September.
Well, true. I'm talking in the 8 years that I've worked.
Yeah.
Similar prayers that we've had, all along.
Right. And if you've seen him show up, I'm sure if we had the time, you could probably give us hundreds of stories how he's shown up in the last hour, and just provided for you guys, even in your own life, in your own testimony. I'm sure you could tell us how he's done that. So
the stories are amazing.
Yeah, and I know, this whole the quote unquote whole separation of church and state and all that kind of stuff. I know. Do y'all get a lot of backlash from people about that?
I'm going to tell you why we don't.
Okay.
The reason we don't is because we are student led.
Okay.
So if a student is leading a club, they can lead the FCA club just like they can lead any other club that there is a faculty sponsor for.
Got you.
Okay. So the faculty sponsor or huddle coach is so important at every school because they're the first step. And then the fact that they choose a good student leadership group, that is how we are still in the schools. And we haven't stopped. I mean, COVID gave us a pause because COVID was so strange.
Right.
But I mean, since 1954, we've been in the schools because it's a student-led initiative. So all I'm doing is equipping the students.
Right.
I'm not going in there as a 42-year-old woman saying, I'm going to do this at this school.
Right.
It's the students. So there isn't an administration that can say no to this, but yes to everything else. You see what I'm saying?
I got you. Yeah.
So, and same with the character coach program. We send home a permission slip to make sure the parents know what's going on. And if they don't want their student to be involved or their player to be involved, they won't be. That's okay.
Yeah.
We want to provide opportunities. We don't want to force anybody. We want to provide. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You're moving on.
I am. But I'm listening.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's important because when I think about athletes, because I ain't really an athlete like
I don't believe it.
No, trust me, I'm not.
You play ball on Sundays with my husband? Do you ever do that?
No, I don't.
Okay, you should.
I work on Sundays.
Gotcha.
So no, I don't have an opportunity.
I meant Sunday afternoon for
the
record.
No, yeah. No, I'm at work. I would love to play ball eventually. The Lord gonna open that door.
Yeah.
But for right now, no. But I just think it's important to have FCA in the schools. I mean, I really do, because the kids are dealing with so much, and so much is coming at them from all kinds of angles and all types of ways. I think trying to find that common ground, at least they can go in and open up and share and have somebody give them some godly direction instead of some other directions.
Yes, worldly direction.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I said as a struggle is the darkness that I see.
Yeah.
The darkness that we hear about. I mean, it is it's mind-blowing sometimes. If it's not happening to you or yours, sometimes you think it's not happening. But then when you get to be in the schools and you hear about it, I mean, it's breathtaking.
It's, you know what they should do? And I know they probably won't ever do this, but they should have like parents to just come and spend a day at the high school
to experience the life of a student.
Yeah. I was just in a school. I ain't gonna mention the school.
Yeah.
I was in the school and I was able to just stand in the hallways during the time when they're transitioning from classes. Like, I was like, dude, did we do this when we was in school?
Right.
Like, I just don't remember us being like this. You know, it's everybody's got the ear pods and everybody's got the headphones and everybody's down like this. And, you know, it's like, hurry up, get to your class. And, you know, when teachers used to tell us to hurry up and get to class, that means you move a little bit faster.
Right.
They actually slow down.
Yeah. They're like what?
Yeah, really? Yeah. Like, okay, whatever. I mean, the pajamas and the house shoes and I'm like, I couldn't do this every day. Like, I'm just saying me, I couldn't do this every day.
Yeah.
So I know I could imagine, and then just seeing all the differences that are there, which is cool, but I'm sure the influences are huge, and especially with our athletes, because I experienced, because all three of my kids play sports, and trying to get them to say, look, if you really want to do the sports thing, it's going to take more than just you saying you're going to do it.
It's a full-time job.
Man, it is. And I understand it.
Even young. It is.
Yeah,
if it's something you're skilled and passionate about, be ready to dedicate yourself. It is. And there's so much pressure. The pressure that these student athletes are under.
It's insane.
And that's not even talking about the schoolwork part of it. I mean, the pressure they're under, they need Jesus.
Yes.
They need the light, the hope, and the truth that is Jesus like never before.
They do.
I will say our parents probably would have said what we're saying if they would have stood in the hallways when we were in high school. You know what I'm saying? They would have been like,
probably would have.
Was I like that? You know,
I know my mama tripped on me listening to Prince, so I know.
Oh, Prince. Yes.
So, and I know, side note again, because I'm a side note a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I just heard on the news this morning, you probably already know this, that the TSSAA is allowing NIL deals now in high school.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Now, I would have played a sport if I knew I could have got it.
You're like,
I'm all in now. But I'm thinking, man, that's going to mess up. That's just going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, it's almost insane. Like, where are we going with this?
Yeah. Like, where are we living? What are we doing? What are we putting on our young people?
Exactly. You made a great point. Like, they've already got pressure from all the other stuff. Now the pressure of the sport, you know, the school and all that, and then pressure from home, the pressure from the community.
I mean, from their peers, what to wear, how to act, what to say. I mean, the pressure is so strong, and truly, I mean, I'm going to say this all day long to anyone that will ask. The only answer is Jesus. He's our only hope.
Exactly.
So you've got to learn about him and spend time with him while you're alive, so that the hope for eternity is there. I mean, so that you'll know him when you're dead. But when you're alive, you need him to do every single day.
Exactly.
That's it. That's the answer to the pressure.
Exactly. Man, you know, I we need to get like a 3-hour podcast one day, because there's just so much I want to just ask you.
I told you I'm a talker. I'm trying to keep it
No. I mean, it's because it's just so much, because you start down one street and then it's like, well, let me dip over here for a little bit, then dip over, because there's just so much that go into this, you know, because I know it's hard on the athletes. I know it's really hard. And then we haven't even gotten into the whole community aspect, like where they're living and the things they have to deal with on a daily basis. And we haven't even touched that yet. And we can't go there, but I really want to go there. But I do want to ask you a couple more questions before we run out of time. So what is the culture that you want to set at FCA?
I said unity above all.
Okay.
So as I spoke, that we're a team and we're a family.
Right.
So what that looks like is unity, even in the hard things, hard conversations. Striving for excellence and success is not always easy, but it's important. If we're gonna keep doing this long term, we got to be unified as a group, as a leadership group that works for FCA, And then that way, the message that we're putting out to our community is the same. It's a message of, we're going to be about students. We're going to be about leadership. We're going to be about the athletes that are in our schools and the coaches that are leading them. And that's a message that the whole FCA staff would have. We're going to walk alongside them. We say that we're disciple making. I mean, teaching students that know Jesus how to share Jesus with others. It's that multiplication process that we can't do. We can't step in that. We can't be there at everything, but the students are. They're already there. They're in the schools. They're on the teams. They're in the classrooms. So if they know Jesus, we've got to help them know how to be stronger, bolder, know him more deeply, know that we can't live without Jesus so passionately that it overflows out of them.
Right.
And then everyone around them wants what they have. They're like, what is this? Why aren't you stressed? Why aren't you going crazy about tests or games? And it's because of the Lord.
I found a cool relaxation, and his name is Jesus.
There
He's
you go.
helping me do what I need to do.
Yeah.
So that's really great. Now, as far as your team, do you have a lot of ex players and athletes there, or?
I don't think any of us didn't play sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, Shelbyville Central, he was track and football, our new guy. Jasper Wilson. We have Sheldill, who even played at MTSU for a minute. She's from Texas, but she played basketball. I played softball and ran track for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. And then
you
Brian
still got that
football.
speed? You still got that speed?
I mean,
come on
baby
now.
Before 3 babies. Now I just try to walk. Now it's just like, gotta move, But yeah, we're athletes.
Yeah.
And we're highly competitive just in nature. And that's why we're striving for success. We're striving for excellence. It's one of our core foundations of FCA is excellence.
I could imagine in y'all's household, everybody just competing with each other.
Oh, Kyler is insanely competitive. And then we have 3 girls. I gave birth to 3 very competitive children.
Man, but it's fun though. Yeah. I'm sure
it makes
it's
game
fun.
Night so fun.
Man, would it?
Crazy and fun.
Okay, how is FCA connecting with families and the community? How are you guys really making that connection between the two?
So again, I'm going to speak locally. So this is about what we're doing in our office.
Right.
So we had our first ever Fields of Faith. Did you come to Fields of Faith? Do you know about Fields of Faith?
No, I don't.
Okay, it was at MTSU Soccer Stadium. We couldn't do it at the football field, but we did it at the soccer stadium at MTSU's campus. It was this fall, and it was amazing. Okay. So the event was open to students, teachers, administrators, every family member. I mean, what essentially in our description of who was welcome, it was everybody. I mean, anyone that lives in our community and could hear about it. So, and then we had several churches get involved. And then we had students speak that specifically work with FCA, whether they have been to camp or they are a huddle leader. And then we had 3 athletes from MTSU come speak. So it was a night of worship and fun and fellowship. And we talked about Jesus. We prayed together. We did an altar call where they could come to know the Lord. And then a time where you could just come pray if you just needed some prayer, some specific prayer on the side when it was over. And it was the community aspect of it was the most surprising. How many families came together?
Really? Okay.
So students, like a player would go home and tell their parents about it. And so instead of the student only going, the family came too. I mean, little sister, little brother, and mom and dad would come.
That's cool.
And some of them needed prayer. I mean, that's the thing is that God cares about every soul, and however we can reach them is what we're called to do. And so Fields of Faith was one of our community outreach that we did. That wasn't even necessarily the outcome we thought was going to happen, that there would be so many families, but it was beautiful. And it was like, God knew that's what was going to happen,
Most definitely.
And then we have camps. We have summer camps where it's all the way from sports specific to leadership for middle school and high schoolers that are care about leadership wherever they are. And then the family camp. So coaches and their families, there's a family camp. I've been a part of all of those before I was ever on staff with FCA. I got to go like as the coach's family.
Right.
And the camp aspect is really neat about FCA, because if you can get, whether it's a family or a student, away from their normal routine, and you can go put them in something like a camp environment, it's really neat to see the growth. I mean, to see them grow closer to the Lord, closer together, and just kind of have a time away. Mm-hmm. So the camp piece is a really big part of our community outreach.
That's cool. Now, do y'all, I'm just asking, do y'all use the athletes to, like, some of the college goes to the high school, then the high school goes to middle school, and then so forth? Because I think having that, the generational thought, like,
Yeah.
dude, how do I get to your level? Well, this is how you do that.
Well, so Jason Scales is one of our new hires on staff, and he is who's in charge at MTSU.
Right.
So the really cool thing about something he's passionate about is having our leaders at MTSU, so the student leaders that are in charge of that huddle or helping to facilitate that huddle that meets on Monday nights, then they go into the high schools and get to share their stories with the high school huddles or with a high school team,
right,
or middle school team.
Okay.
And what's so neat about maybe a college student versus us,
right,
is that it wasn't that long ago for them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And the kids are looking up to them like, oh, you play football at MTSU, or a basketball, you play Lady Raider basketball at MTSU. I want to know about what you're doing.
Right.
And so it's neat to see the huddles, the kids light up when they walk in and they're like, oh, okay, this is who's speaking today.
Yeah.
And it's relatable and it's relevant.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Because me and you going in there, they be like, I mean, they'll listen.
Because we're awesome.
Yeah. Because we just all in the bag of chips.
Right.
But I mean, to have
just
them coming in.
Yeah. Right. But
yeah, we still rocking it now. I ain't gonna never say we're not. So tell us, I know you have like tons and tons of stories, but like give us a story that's like a redeeming story that.
Oh man. Well, here's the thing about FCA. Brian, my boss, Brian, and I talk about this a lot. The most amazing stories are ones that we can't share.
Okay.
The most amazing stories are the ones that really only the staff knows about, because it's where we are showing up for the coach at midnight when they're going to find a player, or, I mean, I could go deep on all of these. So the most amazing ones are often the ones that we can't share. Right. But I will share with you one that I thought of when you asked the question, something that is, again, I feel like I'm bragging on the ministry of FCA, but really what it is bragging on the Lord.
Okay.
I mean, getting to say, that's amazing, God, that I got to witness that. So I was the middle school camp director of our Tennessee State camp that we have at Johnson University in Knoxville.
Okay.
And so essentially it's for any middle schooler across the state of Tennessee to come if you care about leadership and you want to go a little deeper on the leadership track. But I mean, there's all kinds of fun things that go along with it. But we call it our leadership camp. So my daughter, one of my daughters, and one of her best friends went to camp, and I, as the camp director, super busy. There's hundreds of kids there.
Right.
Don't get to see the ins and outs of everything that takes place. But I happened to be at our second night of worship, where there was an altar call given, and I got to see my daughter.
Wow.
I'm gonna try not to cry.
Oh, don't cry. Here we go.
I got to see my daughter and one of her best friends go receive Jesus.
Wow. That's amazing. Still tore up.
Yes.
Man, sad. Man, that's what it's all about, right? And not only that, but just see how she's developing and the growth in her, and then to see that in the other students too.
Right.
I don't care
the ripple effect.
I don't care when nobody say, man, Jesus is still there in them schools because he's in those kids.
He is.
And using them in a mighty way. And you guys help facilitate all of that.
Yeah. And Mama, don't cry. The cool thing, the crossover effect, is that it was really hard to direct the camp. It's hard to direct a statewide camp.
Right.
But then I got to see the fruit, one tiny little bit of fruit, but it impacted me so personally. I'm like, that's one of my babies,
right.
Much less all the other babies that are at camp, giving their life to Christ and then going back wherever they're from and getting discipled, getting plugged in a local church. That's what it's about. I mean, that's why I'm doing this.
And I think I love that part too. It's like, we're not just bringing them to Jesus and then taking them home and say, do your thing. No, but you guys are actually with them, walking with them, and giving them opportunities to continue to grow. So, man, I like that. Yeah. So, Christa, you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
FCA, man, I love it. All right. So now these next couple, we're going to kind of go rapid fire. Okay. So don't even think about them. I know you got your little notes right there.
I try to be prepared. 7 habits of highly effective.
I know, Folly. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay. So, number 1, who do you look up to for inspiration and mentorship?
I answered that, and there's several.
Yeah, I know. How
many do you want?
Well, I just want the ones that you feel like you want to talk about.
I said my dad as an evangelist. Equally, my mom. They're still married, quite different from each other, dynamic duo. But my mom is patient and kind and knows the word. I can call her and say, Mom, I'm about to speak on this. Can you remind me where that's from? And she knows it.
Right.
So then right there, Mom and Dad, if they know I'm going to go speak or get to talk to anyone about Jesus, they'll be like, we'll pray for you right now. And, then they'll pray.
Right.
So Mom and Dad, first and foremost. I mean, the Lord blessed me with amazing parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, my husband, we're opposites, which I think a lot of times that's what God does, brings opposites together.
He does.
He is a constant source of encouragement when, on the days when I'm like, is this really what I'm equipped to do? I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
He's like, let me tell you how you can do this. Let me tell you what I see in you. So he's my biggest cheerleader. I see him walk out his faith with boldness and equally with kindness. So he is a constant source of encouragement. So Mom and Dad, mentor, he is an encourager, not even trying to be. That's just who he is.
Right.
And then Brian Harrell, he has, he's a pastor to many. He's a teacher always. He's always got like a teaching point or a teachable moment. And I just try to listen. I just try to take it in from Brian Harrell when he speaks.
Right.
And then I said Pastor Scales.
Yeah.
As an amazing man of God, teaching in such a different way. He's like a really quick, impactful speaker, a teacher. Right. I've learned so much from him, and I trust his wisdom. I ask him to critique me a lot of times. Like if I spoke, I'm like, I need you to tell me where can I do better? Where can I grow? And I trust his word. I trust that he's going to give me some truth.
Right.
And then I've got a group of ladies that I have done life with for 15 years. We're in a Bible study together every other Thursday night for 15 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I don't think I would work for FCA without them. I mean, they have, not only do they give financially, but they give their prayers. I mean, they are constantly saying, give us a praise report, tell us what's going on with FCA. And they're my people.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, Brian Harrell, now I will say this. You're right about that. Because when he speaks, I'm like, I'm listening. Like, I'm listening. He almost got me a couple of times.
Yeah, I know about that. I may have been praying for that. I'm telling you, the laborers are few.
Man, he almost got me a couple of times. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Okay, what was the most important risk you took and why?
Okay, personally, we moved to Texas after we had been married less than a year. And I'm from Antioch, went to MTSU. My parents live in Eagleville. You would have thought I'm never leaving those that I know and love. I keep my people really close. They're like family, even, friends like family. Uh-huh. So leaving my comfort zone was a huge risk. I was in outside sales before we had kids. Right out of college, I sold aerospace aluminum.
Wow.
Which is really specific and random.
Yeah.
But it taught me what it looked like to be in sales constantly. We are always selling something, Right, so now I want to make sure I'm about selling Jesus. Then I was selling aerospace aluminum. Hopefully I was selling Jesus while I'm selling aerospace aluminum. However, the company offered us a move to Texas for the state of Texas to be my territory.
Okay.
And essentially I went home and talked to Kyler about it. And he said, the fact that you're even considering this tells me we need to listen to the Lord on this. We got to take this to him. So anyway, long story short, we said yes. We moved to Texas. We celebrated our first year of marriage in Texas. And I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know saying yes to that risk would turn out so wonderful. And what it did is it grew our marriage. It grew the fact that we can be independent, but also dependent. So we learned dependence on each other and dependence on the Lord. Like I don't believe I would have done here in my comfort zone.
Right.
So we lived there for 3 years. And then when it was time, when we wanted to start our family and buy a home, the Lord opened up an opportunity for Kyler to coach at Riverdale. That's what started his career at Riverdale.
Okay.
And we bought a house in Murfreesboro, and that's it. The rest is history.
Most definitely.
But it was a huge risk, and people that know me dearly and close couldn't believe that I said yes to that. But it was good.
But you know what? It's almost like it prepared you for the yes for FCA.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you took that one. So cool. All right. Best story you have while working at FCA.
Well, it's my daughter's story.
Well, but I mean, come on. I mean, that's a memorable.
Here's another really practical thing that we see happen a lot when we train a middle school student leader. So think about a 6th grader coming to you saying, can you help me learn how to tell my God story? Help me share my testimony. I want to do it. I want to get up in front of my peers and do it. And you're like, okay, here's the Bible. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to work with you. Like so excited. So then you see them in middle school, and then you see them and they're serving in middle school through FCA. And then they move up to high school and they do the same thing. They come to the training and they're like, I'm still in. I still want to do this. And then they go all the way to college, not even middle MTSU or not. They go somewhere in college, and then they want to serve as what we call our camp huddle coaches. So then they want to be in charge of a group of students that come to camp to pour into them. And you get to see that full circle where you're like, what I was doing with them in middle school has impacted not only their life all the way through college, but then whatever students get to come and learn from them at camp.
That's amazing.
And it happens time and time and time again.
That's amazing.
Once they get it, it's not like they're going to maybe get it and they might be serious about the Lord. It's like they get it and they're going to use it.
And it sticks with them.
Yeah.
Sticks with them. Okay. Last 2 questions. What's your favorite scripture?
Oh, Proverbs 3, and 4. And I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget it, but I'm going to try to say it from memory. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your heart. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, that you will find faithfulness and a good name in the sight of God and man.
Awesome.
That was my senior quote in high school in the yearbook. I did a study on what it is to have a good name, and that led me to that verse. That's something that I believe is really important. Let your name be a good name in the community, then you will find favor in both God's sight and in man's sight.
Yeah. Most definitely. That's great. Last thing you want to leave us with?
That we are all missionaries.
I wrote that down
as soon as I read that question.
Okay.
We are all called to do God's work. We are supposed to be ready at any minute to pray with someone and to share with them about Jesus. We're all missionaries.
Most definitely. Hey, Christa, thank you so much for stopping by.
I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you didn't talk too much. I'm just excited that we still have that available for our children in the schools.
Absolutely.
So listen, y'all, if you have a child, niece, nephew, cousin, next door neighbor, anybody, run to FCA that's in your school and have them do that.
Let me give a plug. Look us up on fcarocks.org to see how your student can get involved.
Wow, most definitely. Yeah. Appreciate that. Hey, this is your boy, Pastor Mike, aka 90s number 5. This is the 11th hour. Remember, go make movements.
Yes.
Not just moments. Go make movements in your life. And look us up anytime you want to. The nicholasfoundation.org. Check us out, what we're doing on there. And then I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Pastor Mike, I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for having me.